Hello, Mountaineers. I'm the Wolfman, Dale Wolfley, and this is the WolfMan's Call, Monday, May 8th, 2023. A little late coming at you today. A lot of things going on, catching up right now, but I hope you had an excellent day today. It's getting to be better and better. The spring is coming. I can feel it, meaning that it's going to come to summer, and summer ball is going to happen, and then summer ball is going to turn to fall camp, and then the season will get started for another year, 2023 year of football. Got a lot of cool things coming up here on the Wolfman's Call, especially this week. You know, we're going to have Travis Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, from The Last Word on College Football. Wrote an article today. He'll be on tomorrow's show talking about it. It's got Morgantown. We have a problem. And I think he's going to break it down and talk about what he sees, possibilities of a difficult time to be struggling. It's a difficult time in college football. The landscape, you really don't want to be struggling, and so the concerns are there. And how to get out of those concerns, how to react to those concerns, and helping out Mountaineer Nation continue to head in the right direction, protecting it, and if possible, getting to 4 major power conferences. So again, looking out for WVU. That's Travis Kenobi, Last Word in College Football. His article's out today. If you want to check it out, because tomorrow he's going to be talking about it. Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we're going to also have today from the Mountaineer Brotherhood football celebration. We're going to have Nicco Marchiol, the quarterback out of Arizona, via Colorado. Gatorade Player of the Year, although he's been dethroned now. It's been over a year. 2-time state champion wrestler. I mean, just so many things. And he just has 4 for 4 to go at WVU if he so desires. And he's just a remarkable young man. And talking to him, I have to smile. He makes me laugh because he's got such a whole together package. And that's how he presents himself, how he talks, how he thinks, how he feels. Watching him play. Because remember when he was at Hamilton High School, out there in Phoenix, right outside of Phoenix, he was he was throwing up and throwing the football, leading his team in a comeback victory. Excited. He's going to be a member of Wolfman's Call for a bit as well as some of the other players. So get ready. We got some cool things, and eventually here I'm hooking up there with Jay Paternal to talk about that Penn State team. That team, I have no idea where they're going to be, except they got to be top 10. I think they're going to be top 5. Some people are even saying that they can be one of the teams outside of the SEC to compete for a title, the national title. So Jay Paternal is going to be coming in. And then I have a really cool thing, and that is Frank Fear. I call it the Frank Fear Hour. And it's not an hour, it's just a segment, a few minutes, telling the story of the band of brothers, then and now, the 1966 to 70 WVU football Mountaineers. And it's with the coaches and with players. And he just did an incredible job. And so what I've asked him to do is to come on the show, at least once a week, and give us a story on that season. Today's is really cool. It's about Bobby Bowden and the lesson he learned, and a valuable lesson that led him to help become a Hall of Fame coach. So we got a couple of things today. That is, what are we talking about here in the transfer portal? And we have to look at players that we're losing and the players that we're bringing in. I think we have to be very, very honest about the situation. And the situation to me is could be have a cup half full or a cup half empty. And I like to be the optimist and say a cup half full. Well, if it's going to be a cup half full, then it's going to mean that some of these players that are coming in from G5 or FCS are going to have to step up and be able to compete in Power 5. And that means that this coaching staff has to really, really develop and teach these young players right off the bat to be able to compete in this type of league. I don't want to not tell the truth. The truth is, I'm not sure if the Mountaineers are winning or losing. But for them to win in the transfer portal, these players have to step onto the field, have to contribute, and have to be able to contribute at a Power 5 level. Spring game is nothing. I'm going to be breaking down the spring game here also in the next coming days, showing you. I want to see. I keep hearing this, hey, Garrett Green was excellent here at quarterback, and Nicco was this. And okay, well, let's break it down. Let's look at it, man. You tell me what you think. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. And the fact is, do you think Garrett Green and Nicco Marchiol are going to be, you know, not head-to-head or competition going in the future? Or do you think it should be Garrett Green because he's older? It looks like he had 2 more completions in the spring game. 2 more completions. We don't even know how the other 14 practices went. You know what I love? I would love Johnny Antoni, my buddy, right? Great dude. You know, great reporter. I don't know if you call him a historian. He's a great writer. He can ask questions. He can do it all. He's got the whole package. I love someone that say, hey, you know, when you look at the other practices, because they grade every single play on these quarterbacks, and they grade every single play on the other players as well. But what do you know? Who came out ahead in that play-by-play grading? I would love to know. I mean, I want someone to ask some real questions of Neil Brown. And I think Brown's, you know, he's tough enough to answer them. He's always been honest. He's always been open. So I think I would love to have some of the reporters get in there and ask some questions that really have some meat to them. You know, get in those ribs, man, and bite them. It'd be very cool. And so, with that being said, let's take a look at what we saw from the spring game and see if we can determine if one or the other has an advantage, right? So with all that being said, and because we're a cup that's half full, not half empty, right? Let's go ahead and look at this. Nicco, be excited. He's got 4 years to play. This is a 4-star kid. I don't care 4-star, 5-star. I don't care if you put him at 3-star. I saw him bring his team back. I saw him put his team on his shoulders. And this is the future of WB football. And it's really, really exciting. Watch him here as a young man last week at the Mountaineer Football Brotherhood celebration. And then watch the Frank Fear Hour, man. All on the WolfMan's call. Bobby Bowden lesson. You don't want to miss it. Watch the entirety of it. You won't be disappointed. Woo! Let's go, baby. Roll it.
Wants to tame me. You can't catch me on the run, cause I'm gone, yeah. I blaze trails, set fire to what's behind me. No, I'm never looking back, I'm on the run. I could only ever be what I'm made to be. Feels good when I'm living on the edge. Watch me now, roll like thunder, gonna shake the ground. Can't stop me now, I don't give up and I won't back down. I'm a force of nature, can't be contained. I got lightning running all through my veins. Watch me now, watch me now.
And I think if everybody looks at him, I mean, he's a good-looking guy, right? He's a quarterback. You know, he's a 2-time state champion wrestler. He's Mr. Gatorade, former Mr. Gatorade of Arizona, because there's a new king there now.
Right.
But Nicco Marchiol, Nicco, welcome.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to be here. Now, listen, I started you off first because you actually did the commercial with me, and I just want you to know who's the king to make the commercials with.
Man, Wolf holds that title. That title's not going anywhere. He's just a
Okay.
natural.
All right, that's the only thing I'm going to do for my own self-glory, at least with you, Nico, tonight. Okay, but let's get started, man. Okay, spring ball is about ready to wind down. You came in. This is really, you were spring ball last year, but this is a year you've had a year under your belt. I assume you're knowing the plays a little bit better, feeling more comfortable, being a general out there on the field. Tell me then, what was your spring like overall?
100%, Wolf. Like you said, it's crazy what a year difference makes. Just from connection to the staff, to even the players, to the guys in my room. I just feel at home now, and I feel really, really comfortable. And this is going to be a really, really successful season. This is the year when we have all these different tools around us. We have all these different receivers and running backs, and the front five is, I put those guys up against anyone in the country. So when you have all these tools coming together, this is when teams are successful.
That's so true. And you were talking, or Coach Neil Brown was talking about changing the offense a little bit, maybe relying more on a run offense. But at the same time, you coming in as a young Buccaneer that you are, with a swinging arm, man, that's only going to help you do those passes better. Because when they're there trying to defend that run, that really will leave you opportunities to strike and strike deep.
That's a fact. Just like you were saying, the run game helps sets up the pass game. So when you have guys like C.J. Donaldson, Tony Mathis, Justin Johnson, when you have guys like that in the backfield, that makes it even easier to me to get the ball to Devin Carter and these other freaks that we have at receiver. So it's all a really cohesive unit, and I'm really, really excited for what this year's bring.
Did you just say freaks?
Freaks.
Freaks. Should we be expecting freaks out there for the game tomorrow?
Oh my goodness, you're going to see some freaky stuff in the spring game tomorrow. When you got, like I said, Devin Carter, the additions we've made on the offensive side of the ball are just is just what we needed. We filled all these gaps. We had some older guys leave last year, so I think we filled those gaps with guys just as good, and I'm really, really excited to get the ball to those guys.
Good. Well, we're looking forward to seeing all that. And I want to ask you a couple off-the-field questions. Everyone's asking you about on-the-field stuff. So you've been in West Virginia a little more than a year now,
A little
right?
over a year, yep.
Tell me about, and you've done a great job, like many of our players, but you've really been out in the community. You've been all over North Central West Virginia doing charity work, going to restaurants, just meeting people and having some fun. Tell me your impressions 1 year into being a West Virginia boy. Tell me about it.
Now I can firmly say there's nothing like West Virginia and the people it brings. We've been as far as Hurricane, I think that's how you say it, Wheeling, Fairmont. I've been all over so far. And the one thing that stays the same is the love for the Mountaineers. That's something that you're not going to get anywhere else. And you really don't know how blessed you are to be a part of it until you are a part of it. When I've been so immersed in this culture here in West Virginia, and they've embraced me with open arms, me and my family. So it's been a blessing to be able to go to these different parts of West Virginia, and you always see that gold and blue everywhere you go. So that's always awesome to see.
Good, and you've been sampling lots of food around the state.
Oh, man.
What's your favorite thing you've eaten since you've come to Morgantown now?
There's only one answer. It's the pizza rolls. It's
the pizza rolls, the pepperoni
rolls. There's so many different kinds. I think I've tried almost every Italian place in Morgantown, but there seems to always be something new on the menu. So.
Okay, Nico. So let's get back real quick to the offense. What is the most improved that you've seen on your part? And with the offense that you're playing with, what's the most improved? What do you feel confident about, and what are you jacked up about?
Definitely, I think something I really improved on this offseason, this spring, mainly is my decision making and my pocket presence. Being a freshman, actually in Arizona, when I was talking with Spencer Rattler, who I throw with out in Arizona, he was telling me, we agreed, one of the hardest things to do as a quarterback in college football is feel the pocket presence, know when to move, know how much to move, and I think that's something I've really emphasized this spring. And if I can just continue to get better at that, then off schedule throws are one of the main things that decide if teams win games. So out of the pocket throws, that's something on the move. That's something I've really emphasized this spring, and like you said, just having more confidence under my belt, having more guys around me that believe in me, because they see what I can do and the things I can bring to the team. So that's what I'm really excited for. And this offense, we're really emphasizing, throwing the ball down the field. And like you were saying, the run game is going to set up the pass game. So
Yeah,
We like that.
I like that. You got one last question for him.
One last question for you. We start off with 3 games against the state of Pennsylvania: Penn State, Duquesne, and Pitt. You got it in your heart. You're a Mountaineer now. We don't like playing those guys. That's our rival. How are you getting us ready to play those 3 games against our rival? Start off with Penn State, man. What are we doing?
So I know there's a lot of history with these teams. So I think that's going to get us excited enough in itself. So I think if we treat it like any other week, but knowing this is on the biggest stage in college football. You're going to Penn State. You're playing in front of 100,000+ people. So the game's going to be exciting enough. And Pitt, that game speaks for itself. We know we don't like those guys, but I'm really confident in my guys this year. So.
Okay, last question, brother, for you. All right, you're a 2-time state wrestling champ, right?
Yes, sir.
Frazier's a 4-time, right? Okay, who's gonna win in that battle?
Frazier's got just crazy, scary strength. So seeing the things he does on the field is, I don't think I'm at that level yet. So I still think he's got me for a couple years. But
sorry, man, I had to do it, but the way it was gonna go, Frazier's way.
Dan Cava has the largest selection of new Camrys in the area, and with $1,000 off sticker price, now is the best time to purchase your new Camry. We also have a wide variety of Tundras, some featuring the all-new TRD lift kit. And don't forget, all new Toyotas come with 2 years or 25,000 miles worth of free service from our award-winning service department, which you can schedule online, by phone, or through the Toyota app. Come see us at Dan Cava Toyota World in Fairmont. Shop the world!
Stationers, #1 office supplier in West Virginia, always in stock. And this next segment, I think, has the potential to turn into one of my favorite segments on the WolfMan's Call. And you know what it's called? It's called the Frank Fear Hour. That's right. I have Frank Fear, the author, the academiac from Michigan State, over 40+ years with that university. Well, he has gone commercial, and he went commercial with the book, The Band of Brothers Then and Now, the 1966, the 70 Mountaineers. I got it right. I got the name right out of all these times promoting it. Frank, it is wonderful to have you. And tell us, what does the Fear Man have to say about a story today?
Well, first of all, let me say, Dale, thank you so much. And I know I speak for the guys too. We really appreciate your support and everything you do for WVU. I mean, that's heartfelt when I say that. You're there all the time, and we really appreciate that very much. I'd like to say a story about the 1970 team and focus on Bobby Bowden today, because I could talk about the 1969 Peach Bowl. That was a great win, obviously, over South Carolina. A lot has been written about that, but let's talk about the 1970 season, because so many of the players that were on that Peach Bowl team came back for the 1970 season, especially on the offensive side. And quarterback Mike Sherwood and Jim Braxton was on that team, and Bob Gresham, and a lot of really great running backs, quarterback, and anticipation was really high. And WVU got a lot of national attention. They were up to number 11 after they beat Indiana at Indiana, and then came homecoming against Duke to play Duke, and they were favored. And my wife Kathy and I, Kathy is a Mountaineer as well as I. We both got our master's degrees in Morgantown. We were at that game, and the crowd was buzzing, expecting a WVU win, and WVU scored first, went up, and it was a harbinger of things to come. Duke, which was a passing team with the number one quarterback, I think his name was Leo Hart, they ran. What we didn't know at the time was we did know that a number of the players, including Dale Farley, a great WVU All-America linebacker who played pro ball, was hurt in the Indiana game, and others were too. But Duke took advantage of that, and they basically ran. Not for long gains, really short bursts over the middle for the most part. And they won that game. And now we have to go to Pitt the next week. And rather than going into Pitt undefeated, we're going into the Pitt game with one loss. And that game became I think this may be a little bit of hyperbole, but I don't think it is, perhaps the most important or meaningful lesson learned for Coach Bowden in his entire career. And he won a lot of games and played a lot of games. And that is, don't sit on a halftime lead. By the time Kathy Fear and I got to Pitt Stadium, and it existed back then, it doesn't anymore, West Virginia was up 35-8 at halftime, and it was a blowout. When we got there late, it was 21-0. And, it was sort of boring starting the second half.
Right.
What I didn't know, and Mike Sherwood told me, the quarterback told me this story, is that he said, I can point you to the spot at Pitt Stadium where Coach Bowden and I walked off the field, and he said, we're going to run in the second half. And what I learned later, not only from the West Virginia players, but also from listening to tapes, interviews out of Pittsburgh, is that in the Pitt locker room, they were talking about the importance of running the ball to run out the clock, because they were afraid, literally, that WVU was going to score 70 points. If they scored 35 in the first, we can't stop them. They could not stop them. Pitt could not stop, the Panthers couldn't stop the Mountaineers. So Pitt began to run. But Pitt had big backs, really big backs, like Syracuse, like Penn State. And West Virginia had a lot of trouble, again, with injuries on the defense. And then when they got near the goal line, they would pass, and they would also get 2-point conversions. So the end of the game, I remember this as though it was yesterday, watching on the other side of the field. Pitt comes down, they get to the 11, they just made it. They had to have a measurement. They get down to the 5, and then the quarterback throws a ball into the end zone. Touchdown, Pitt wins the game 36-35. And years later, Bowden would get together with WVU players, because he was tight, as was Jim Carlin, tight with a lot of players through their lives. Basically said, what I learned that day stayed with me for the rest of my career. I lost that game for us, which is obviously a little bit going too far, but it had an impact on him. And you and I have talked about this. What a lot of people don't realize is that Bobby Bowden came to WVU from Florida State, where he was the receivers coach at Florida State. Of course, we all know that he left WVU for Florida State to become their head coach. And the other thing that you and I were talking about earlier is that a lot of the coaches, even though a number of the players from '69 at WVU stayed on in 1970, they hadn't used up their, they were still playing. They were still playing in 1970. a number of the coaches left for Texas Tech when Jim Carlin left right after the Peach Bowl. But 3 coaches on that 1970 staff, Signetti, Plausing, and of course Bobby Bowden, are in the College Football Hall of Fame. And if Jim Carlin, who was nominated this year and didn't make it, gets in the future, and we're pulling for him, can you believe that? 4 coaches in 2 years, 3 for sure, and possibly 4 coaches in 2 years at the same school being ensconced in the College Football Hall of Fame. So that 1970 season really was a disappointment, even though WVU ended up 8-3 with the big win over Syracuse in November. That got them to 7-3, and then they closed out the season beating Maryland. They didn't get a sniff for a bowl game, and it was really those back-to-back losses to Duke at home and homecoming, and then the loss to Pitt. And of course, they were blown out at Penn State. So you put those games together today with an 8-3 record. Dale, you're playing probably on New Year's Day.
Yeah, you're playing a good bowl game, and it was tough to get bowls back then. And there were just so many, and you had to be on top for sure, and on top of your conference. So, all right there, this is going to be one of my favorite parts as we move on here. We got a lot of stories to tell. I believe you got 20 participants from that era, 66 to 70 guys. The band of brothers, then and now. And so much cool information, man. I didn't know that Bobby Bowden said, I'll never sit on a halftime lead again. That's where he learned it. That's where a Hall of Fame coach never again made that mistake. Because I can remember as me being a head coach, usually most of my major lessons were painful ones. Okay, coming from painful moments. And you know what? I guess even the greats had to go through it all to grow. So, all right, Frank Fear, that was the Frank Fear Hour and the story. Well, we're going to bring you back, brother, and I can't wait for the next story to come.
Thank you so much, Dale. Always a pleasure. Thank you for all you do.